everyone. I'm Linda Kaiser, and welcome to The Circle. Tonight we're going to talk about Standing Rock. And if you don't know what Standing Rock is by now, you've had your head in a hole. And, we have several guests, all of whom have been to Standing Rock. And the first one, we're going to have everybody raise their hand, is Mary Beth Lord, who is a regular panelist with The Circle. And next to her is Lucy Lopez, who is another regular panelist. And next to Lucy is Sharon Brash. Hi. And she is Mary Beth's daughter-in-law.
Sister-in-law.
Or sister-in-law, I'm sorry, screwed that up. And then we have Maria Lopez, and she is the aunt of Lucy. And next to her is Jackie Mitchell Santizo. And also next to Jackie is Marjorie Munson. So that is our group of women, all of whom have been to Standing Rock. And Mary Beth, why don't you lead off and tell us what it is like to go to Standing Rock? All of you just felt compelled to go there, correct?
Yeah, I think everybody that's at Standing Rock or has gone to Standing Rock has gone because they felt that calling. Everybody that I spoke to out there said the same thing, that when they heard it, they just knew that they had to be there. And that seemed to be the one familiar strand that ran through most of the people there. And Sharon and Jackie and I, we were out there in September and October for about 3 weeks. And, it was amazing. We did a lot of frontline actions. We camped. We got to meet everybody. We had a real education as to what's what Standing Rock was all about, what DAPL was all about, and Energy Transfer Partners, and the plight of the Indians, and the prophecy. I mean, this time has been prophesized through many different tribes about when the four nations come together. And we saw it out there. This is, what people like to say, it's like an Indian issue, which it is because this is on tribal ground. But really, it's much more than that. It's the time in history where we're all, waking to the fact that we are all one and we have to unify. And that's what this is about. We are standing there with, our Indian family members and with family members from around the world that are here to save the water on our planet and to bring down a lot of these greedy corporations. So, when we came back after our first time, we knew it instantly that we needed to go back. So Lucy had said that she had a burning desire to be out there. So Lucy called her aunt, Maria, and then Sharon and Lucy, Maria, and I headed back out there on October 12th. And we spent another 9 or 10 days out there. And this time was very different than our first time, actually. The camp had grown a lot since we were there the first time. The actions, the frontline actions had gotten a lot more, it was a lot scarier this time.
Right, a lot more confrontational.
Yeah, the force being brought by the state of North Dakota to the protesters is just unbelievable. I know when Marjorie was there, she was out there. We met her at camp on our first trip, and we just connected with Marjorie right away. She's got an amazingly beautiful heart and spirit. And, I really need Marjorie to tell people what happened to her, because she was actually arrested during our first day out there. But, the main thing that we keep trying to tell people is, it's being portrayed as a riot. It's being portrayed as, unruly people, that we are there disrupting communities, that the people in the communities are frightened by us, and all of this. And it couldn't be further from the truth. There is no violence on the side of the protesters. It's a lot of praying and drumming and singing and quiet, prayerful marches. And yeah, when you're in front of a Wells Fargo bank or something, you will hear, Minnie Wachoni, and, you'll hear the chants, and you'll hear, things like that. But there isn't any violence. And that's the thing that hurts, I think, the most when we go onto YouTube or we read articles that are in papers or whatever, because it's always portray that these protesters are violent and unruly, and it is just such a lie. And, to me, that hurts the most. But
let me ask Marjorie for a second. How did you happen to get arrested? What were you doing?
Well, according to my arrest, I was engaging in a riot and I was criminally trespassing.
And what?
But that is not, it's not true. None of us were. I was arrested on October 22nd, and that was the first mass arrest. And it was I had also gone out on some of the same actions, not in the same car, but the same days with Sharon and Mary Beth. And the earlier ones had unfolded in a somewhat predictable way, where people would consider themselves to be arrestable. So basically, the day that I went out, there were more than 100 of us, and the law enforcement, which at this point was comprised of the DAPL security, the Morton County police from all over North Dakota, and 5 other states. So they really ramped up the law enforcement. They're all in riot gear, and they intended to nab all of us, and they did. And then they proceeded to ship us all over the state, never having read us our rights and not even having completed our booking. So I really think that they were just trying to rattle us and diminish our numbers and make us go away.
Marjorie, what were you?
We were singing peace songs, and we were standing with our beautiful artwork and praying and asking the law enforcement to look inside of their own hearts and come join us to be on the right side of history.
And they walked up to you and said what?
Oh, they just circled us, and we were trying to make a retreat back to our cars, which the other half dozen actions that I had been on, that also Mary Beth and Sharon had been on, we would reach a point where law enforcement would say, everyone needs to leave. If you're not gone within 5 minutes, you will be arrested. That was the way it played out. In this case, I just heard somebody within our own group saying, let's go. And we all turned to leave. And I imagined that it would unfold in the same way that the other ones had. And instead, people were being pulled from the back, being thrown to the ground, being pulled off the sides. And the group that I was in, by the time we were circled, completely surrounded by law enforcement, and were told that all of us were going to be under arrest and we needed to sit down. And that was that.
And then you sat down?
Yeah. So I don't really want to go into all the details.
Hang on a second. How many people sat down?
Probably about 50.
Okay.
But that means that another more than 70 people had already been intercepted.
Right.
So in total, there were 127.
How many police people were there?
Oh gosh, probably around 100.
So did they tell you to put your hands behind your back, or what did they do next?
We needed to all sit down. We had tightly clustered, and they told us that we all needed to sit down. Mm-hmm. And no, we didn't have to have our hands behind our back, but then individually we were called out by law enforcement, at which point we did have to put our hands behind our backs, and each of us was zip tied, with these like zip tie cuffs.
And did that hurt?
It did hurt. Yeah.
And how long did you have to stay like that?
I was so uncomfortable that when I was being driven back to Morton County, I basically said, you've got to stop. You need to release my right hand. I was losing circulation in my right hand. My left was okay. And after about 5 minutes, the police that were driving the vehicle stopped and clipped me personally out and put me in a more conventional cup that was in the front. But there were many others that were in my group that had their hands behind their backs for hours and hours and hours. Yeah.
And did they put you in a cell? What did they do next?
It's really a pretty long story, and I wrote about it. I wrote about the experience, and it's available on my Facebook page. And I would encourage people maybe to read that account, because it's sort of, I don't really want to hijack this particular meeting. I think just in summary that I'm 58 years old. I'm a grandma. I'm a former white collar professional. I consider myself to be very strong, and I was very shaken, progressively more and more concerned about being stripped of all my rights and not being able to get hold of my family, feeling much safer with the inmates, even that weren't even part of our water protector group. And it was traumatizing. I would never want to go back to jail again, certainly not in North Dakota. I do have a trial, presumably that's going to happen in early January, and it's a very unhealthy place. Jail is not a good place. And there are some of the water protectors who have gone more than once that they will not be deterred. They're stronger than I am in their commitment to this.
So you won't go back to the front lines, is what you're saying.
I really don't want to go back to jail.
Right.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I'd like to add, and not just about Marjorie, but a lot of the people that have been arrested out there, they are strip searched, they're humiliated, some of them were put in what you would consider like a large dog cage in cold weather. Some of them had numbers written on their arms that reminded you a lot of the Nazi concentration camps. They, were transported long distances without warm clothes. They weren't read their rights. I mean, it just goes on and on and on when you listen to the different people telling their story of what happened to them. So, we know that Amnesty International was there. We saw them last time we were there. They were out on a couple of the actions where we were. This stuff is all being recorded. We know that there's lawyers around the country that are, saying that people's civil rights are being trampled on. And so they are already talking class action suits. The ACLU, I mean, it goes on and on and on. And, when you think about the government of North Dakota, what they're going to be facing when this is over is amazing. And this is all because they would rather use their resources and manpower to protect the greedy corporations than the citizens of North Dakota. And I don't understand it. I don't understand how this happens, and I don't understand why the federal government doesn't get involved in this and send in, National Guard or whatever, when you see that the human, it's just such a human rights issue right now. I just can't believe that there aren't more people in there protecting these people. And it goes back to that it's Indian land. And this has been going on for hundreds of years, that these people were, treated less than. They're given this land through legal treaties, which aren't being honored. I mean, you could just go on and on and on with the horrendous actions that are happening in that state of North Dakota. And if I wasn't there to see it with my own eyes, I don't know if I would believe it either. We talk to people all the time that say that they don't know what to believe because it just seems horrendous.
In the midst of all this ugliness, there's some prophecy going on with all this. The indigenous people have been hurt since the beginning of time. I mean, and they finally put out a call to the rest of the world, and now the rest of the world have come. And we came and we were there, and there's such a huge healing going on with every group of people, especially white people and the indigenous people. I remember one of the meetings that we had had with one of the ladies there. We were going to have a women's march, and there's this young girl that she was indigenous and came up to Mary Beth and hugged her. Literally, it had to be like for 15 minutes, and just cried over her. And it's emotional to me because I saw it happen. And she was just melting in Mary Beth's arm. The healing that I experienced, and that even though so many bad things are happening, because in my vision, I know that things have to get bad, and maybe a little bit more, so we could wake up even more people out there, so they could come and experience and wake up. But that little incident with that girl, this young girl melting in Mary Beth's arm, was one of the most beautiful thing I experienced. And just engaging with the different type of people that were there from all over the world, It's really amazing to be able to have myself check my heart and know that I needed to be there. And actually, nothing happened while I was there, like really bad, except for that Sunday that it blew up, and right before we came, that the girl had one of her arms almost amputated. Thank God it didn't go that far, but it went that bad that media and social media was blown up to a point that now we're getting a little bit more coverage, and it's just really important for the people that are listening to us. If you get your heart to the simplest thing, help us post something on Facebook. And if you want to go as far as going there, I urge you to please follow your heart and do what you can, because the time is now to make a difference. And thanks to the indigenous people that have been aligned with divinity and Mother Nature and the planet and Mother Earth. And they have been always there, aligned to the truth. And now we have to let ourselves be guided by them a little bit, because they truly are peaceful. And they are even holding meetings of how to go out there and protest peacefully. This is the irony of our media. They are actually holding meetings to make sure that we know how to go out there and protest peacefully. It's beautiful. So I urge, if you follow your heart, and if you really think you should be there, just go out there, and it's just gonna have it's something really strong to your heart, empowering, and very emotional.
Lucy's right in that it's like it's just opposing things where you're seeing the violence escalated as far as on the police part, but you're also seeing the best of humanity. You're seeing how everyone takes care of one another and cares about one another. And I mean, really, the example that comes to mind was last Sunday night when we saw such horrendous things happen to a group of people when they were spraying everyone with water cannons in 20 degrees and tear gassing and smoke bombs and concussive grenades, and just treating people like they weren't even people. But yet everyone that was on the opposite side of the police was there to take care of one another. So many examples of just helping with, running and bringing warm blankets, and making sure that all the medical needs were taken care of, and handing out hot soup, and just, driving people up to the casino to get like a hot shower. But it was just so emotional. I don't know if anyone else wants to say a little more about that Sunday.
Jack, I want to hear what you had to say about it out there. What was your experience?
The love that you experience there is something unbelievable. It's like nobody had to tell you what to do. That day on Sunday, everybody do what we have to do. I mean, nobody wait into somebody to give it direction. It's like you know what you have to do. And like, it was like when you coordinated something that you expect, was something like that. Well, it's like we were expecting something and everybody get their own responsibility. Like nobody wait for nobody to tell what to do. So that means that when you are in the same feeling, everybody is on the same feeling, it's so nice. Because I know that wherever who go there, if somebody go and they don't expect the reason why they are going, as soon as you get there, you will find out the reason why you are there. You change the feeling. It's like very emotional. It's something that I recommend the people who are thinking to go, they better go, because that is something that you will never forget. We just came from there and I want to go back. I'm talking every single day. I want to go back. I want to go back. It's like that I feel that they need me there.
So are you going back?
Yeah, I'm planning to. No, I don't know when, but I know that I'm going to.
Hey, Jackie, do we have you yet?
So my feeling when I got there is what I felt the most was the heart of the people, their bravery, their oneness to the land. And after reading their prophecy, both from the Lakota and the Hopi, where it says, if the black snake, which is the pipeline, is allowed to cross the land, America will die. And for me, those people really believe that our earth will die if the pipeline goes through and is allowed to pollute the water. The earth to them is a sentient being which lives and breathes. And the water is the blood of earth. And if you poison the blood, we'll die. So that goes for their children, their grandchildren. So for me, it's very important. This movement is not about just the Indians. It's about all people throughout the earth. And if we don't stand up now, then we won't have anything to stand for. So that's what I believe in.
Now, would you go back?
I would. I truly felt very safe amongst the Indians. I felt very connected with those people. The energy of the police and the media and the whole, because you go there and you see with your own eyes, you hear what's going on. And then what happens is that you listen to the news and it's turned upside down in every which way. And it's all lies. And either that or there's no coverage at all what's really happening. And for me, that was the heartbreak. And the other heartbreak was I felt that the people that had the guns and I didn't feel their hearts. They were empty people. I really had a real hard problem encountering such anger and control and power over another group of people, and it was very hard. That was the most difficult for me. But also the suffering. But what I have to say that is most wonderful was the hearts of the people and the bravery of the people there, and willing to lay down their life for something that's so important. And for that, I would go back, and I'll stand on the streets wherever I have to till I can go back and do what I can.
One of the things I think we were all witnessing out there is, like Jackie was saying, the lack of any type of media coverage. And the press releases that they were providing to people were total lies. I mean, we were there actually seeing what was going on. And then we were hearing a completely different story being told afterwards. So the lesson that I think we're all learning is that we are the media. If it wasn't for us with our cell phones and for the journalists that are, brave enough to stick it out, we wouldn't have a clue as to what's really going on at Standing Rock. So we are the media, and I think more and more and more people are starting to realize that, and they're getting their news off of Facebook and different places where they can go and hear the truth coming from fellow citizens. So one of the biggest problems in the world right now, especially in the United States, I feel, is the media. I feel that they are the voice of the corporations. They're the voice of the government, but they're not the voice of the people. And until we can switch that, we remain under their control. And I think that is one of the things that we're starting to bring down is the media. And to me, that's a brilliant thing. And I'm so happy for that.
Well, I think it sounds silly, but one of the most important things about getting the message out there has been on social media, has been the live stream, where actually, like when Mary Beth said, we are the media, where people have go out every day and they go to the action, and they not only talk about the action, you can be at home, but you can see what exactly is going on. They're narrating, they're showing pictures, and that's the only way that the truth is getting out, where people are starting to see, wait a minute, that's not what I saw. So you can have an eyewitness to what's going on and still be home in Pennsylvania or whatever to see. And I found when I left Standing Rock the first time that I almost became obsessed with finding out what's happening today. I got to get on there and see what's happening, and just to keep up to date with it and see how things were progressing and stuff. And that was one of the motivations for me to actually want to get back out there again as soon as I could, because we could see what was happening. And once you're there, your heart's there, and you want to get out there and you want to help in some way. So
it's funny how we hear it in the Constitution, and we hear it in school, and we hear it so much that when they say, we the people are the ones that have the power. And it hasn't dawned on me till now. Like, the only people covering this is us. The only reason where something is happening is because of us, because we are putting it out there. We're going there. We're doing the littlest bit of something. We could talk to one person and make a difference. That person will hold it with them, and if they see something else, it expands. But to me now, I truly know what it is. We the people have the power.
And I think it's amazing too, because things like, the police and the sheriff saying that they're doing everything by the books, and it's, all the rioters, which is really the water protectors, are breaking the laws. But, it's been through people like us with our cameras that are showing that these police, they removed all their name badges, they remove any identification, because they know what they're doing is illegal and they can be held responsible. So they've removed their name badges, and when people ask for their badges, they just handcuff them and take them off. And it's amazing. I'm so happy how many people are out there brave enough to put their face with this, to go right up to the police, to tell them, we love you. We're doing this for you. We're doing this for your children. We're doing this for future generations. And every day that people stand there and just say, I love you, to the police. We know that you're doing this because it's your job, but please lay down your arms and come to our side. will accept you, will forgive you. The love that is shown out there it's absolutely amazing. And, you know, I never believed too much in soulless people, but when I started seeing the faces of some of these people that are in these uniforms, they're soulless. I remember the night on the bridge. I mean, I saw such horrible things, such atrocities. But the one thing that sticks in my mind is when Lucy and I were up there and we were taking the soup up to the very front for the people that had been standing there and were frozen. And I remember just looking up at the man standing on top of that LRAD machine with his machine gun, looking down at us. And I caught his eye, and I stood there for a while, and I just stared at him. And it was like, I felt cold. I felt no humanity in him at all. And that was so frightening. And out of all the things that I'd seen, that's the thing I can't get out of my mind, is that soulless look on that man's face, almost like he was happy to be there and happy to be pointing that gun down at these unarmed people there to protect Mother Earth. And eventually it'll fade, but as of now, it still hasn't. I still get that cold feeling when I think of that man.
Marjorie, what do you have to say about this?
Well, I'm thinking of some of the heroes of Standing Rock, and first to mind are the International Indigenous Youth Council.
Mm-hmm.
And they are, this is very much a youth-led movement, advised by elders, but led by youth. And they had a ceremony, I think, before you all returned there in early November, where about 400 water protectors led by the youth walked up to the barricaded Highway 1806 with the helical razor wire, and they passed water through the razor wire to the law enforcement on the other side, and then sat down for an hour and prayed. And the law enforcement were afraid, you know, they trying to poison us. And one of the young people said, you know, don't be afraid. If you don't want to drink it, then, you know, you could just touch it. And so one of these rather frozen-hearted law enforcement men did touch the water and touched the water to his heart and accepted the invitation, this peace offering of sacred water from the youth. And just days before that, in the wake of the mowing down of the what is it, the 1851 camp, you know, when all the teepees were mowed down, it was the first invocation of the rubber bullets and the mace. This was 5 days after I was arrested. And elders were being pulled out of ceremony from sweat lodges, and one of the horses was injured so badly they had to put it down. And that happened on a Thursday. By that next Sunday, 4 days later, the women organized a march where they said, no one cover your faces, no one bring protest signs, we're just going to walk up to the jail or the court in Mandan, and we're going to offer forgiveness to the police officers. So there's so much for me to learn, and I think for all of us to learn, the allies to learn about forgiveness and love, and seeing the humanity in all people, even those whose hearts are all but frozen. And that's what is going to win this, is warming one heart at a time.
I think we've lost Mary Beth and Lucy and Sharon. So let's stop here, and then we'll continue on another show. Does that work for you guys? Because I'd really like to continue this conversation. So we'll say goodnight for right now, and then we'll reconnect. How's that?
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.